Hello, everybody. I wanted to take a minute and give you an overview of the project that you'll be working on this year for year two. So to get started, I will include in your email, a link to this page that you can bookmark. I strongly recommend bookmark it rather than doing live binder like we did last year. I've just created a web page. It can also be found by clicking on programs, math leads, and then you click on year two, and you will see last month's pre-session, Zoom session, and next steps. November, hopefully you've been working on the pre-session items for our meeting next week. One other thing that I wanted to show you while we're here is if you click on that drop down for the overview, you'll see the learning plan for all of our monthly meetings. In addition, the documents for the stipend, the syllabus, the requirements for both of these are exactly the same, and you can earn both. So you can buy the credit. Oh, sorry, wrong one. You can buy the credit and you can buy the credit and earn the stipend. When I'm finished with this recording, I will also link it right here. Let's take a second and get into the project handbook. All right, to get started for your project this year, you are going to, this is the process that we'll be going through. 3 main phases: setting a focus, planning for change, and undertaking change. Setting a focus, this is what we're in right now. We're doing our needs assessment, our data analysis. What do we think needs to be affected or changed within our scope of work? And what's our evidence that supports that? So we'll be living in here for a little bit. Some of our pre-session steps, like the needs assessment, you've already actually started working on. Those of you that got into the logic model steps, you've already started working on that. The next one in the plan for change we'll do in the next couple months before January starts. So we'll be setting some goals. We'll be doing some reading of articles and research-based practices. And we'll be designing, you will be designing a plan. What is the plan to affect change in your area? This can affect one person. It can affect a teacher next to you. It can affect a team. It can affect a school. It could affect a district. We had a few years ago, we had 3 math leads that were in the same district, one from an elementary, middle, and high school. So the 3 of them teamed up together. They went to the superintendent. They basically took over the contracted PD days for the district for that year and put together a whole professional development series. Yours does not have to be that big. You have to really be sensitive to what you have the power to influence in your area. So maybe it's your co-teacher. Maybe it's just your team. And that is all okay. You have to decide where that balance is of how big you want to get, as well as how big you have the capacity for. We've talked about this. We talked about this at our last meeting a little bit. But we're not going to restrict or limit what you want to do, other than maybe pulling you back just a little bit. Don't get so big and grandiose that it becomes more time than you're capable of right now. Overall, this whole project, you should be able to log approximately 30 hours and over the whole year. So that's what, 4 or 5 hours a month. So then once you've got your plan, then you're going to implement it. A couple months, 3 months, 6 weeks, depending on what your plan looks like. And then you'll evaluate it. So as you're building your plan, you're going to need to think about, how are you going to evaluate your program? We do that here. We're having those conversations with our math leads team, with Courtney and April. So we have this program. How do we know it's effective? How do we know it affected change, or it affected what you know and how you know it. We have to talk about that. What's our evidence? So some of these surveys that you guys are doing, we'll also have you do one that we're building right now. Another one specifically to evaluate this program. And then in in June, we'll ask you to present what your outcomes were. What did you learn from this? What did you see change? What didn't change? Was there something that surprised you, that changed or didn't change, that you were surprised by? All right, so let's go down to, in this handbook, we have just a brief about the project. This link or this video will also be hyperlinked here. You are, like I mentioned earlier, should spend 30 to 34 hours over the course of the year on this project. To help you, I created a spreadsheet. You don't have to use this, but it is really helpful to keep track of documenting the work that you're accumulating. So if you put in the date and the times, the hours will automatically calculate, and then they'll total up here, so you can kind of evaluate how close you're getting to that 30 hours. You can create some notes, you can add columns, whatever you need. I put in document links in my example if I wanted. So you can log in your monthly meetings on this. The setting of focus allows you to identify what part of the process you're working in at any given time. So you can use this, but you don't have to. But you do need to turn in a log. All right, so now if you notice, this is the blank project document. The categories are exactly the same as the graphic that I showed you at the beginning. So when you turn in your completed project, it will be on, this is where you put your evidence in your work. And I actually have an example of one that you'll be able to see in a minute. Okay. This second page is the exact same as that blank one, except we've put in resources and links, instructions, guidelines. This is your support document. So let's say needs assessment. I don't know what to do for my needs assessment. Oh, I come here. So then when I come here, I can put a hyperlink to the needs assessment that I conducted. But this tells me how to do it. Okay, so again, goals, we're working on those this month. Applied research, this is where whenever I go to build a presentation, a workshop, a training, a coaching session, I usually do some sort of reading. And we want to be very smart about the type of reading we're doing. So I'm building a library here that has vetted high quality resources for you to use. We kind of want to stay away from blogs unless they're like Graham Fletcher, Robert Kaplinski, or Dan Meyer, people that we know are have a really great reputation. We want to stay away from anything on Teachers Pay Teachers, not because it's not good quality, but because you really have to filter through, and we want the highest quality research-based resources. Here is where it explains how to create your improvement plan. And then this is your implementation instructions and your evaluation instructions. Oops, yes. So then I've also included some additional tools that you'll see. Hopefully they look a little familiar. And then if I come down here, I have put in an example. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I've put in an example of a math lead from a couple of years ago, and this was her completed project, so that you can kind of read through this and see. So she brought in her logic document. They had adopted a new curriculum, and the teachers were really struggling with it. It's a fantastic curriculum, but it doesn't look like your traditional ones. So they were struggling with it. And she wanted to make sure that teachers weren't dropping best practices. while they were implementing this curriculum. So she did a data analysis. She was able to pull some of their school and grade level data. And then she hyperlinked her needs assessment. She aligned it with our framework, and we'll talk more about that. We'll do that part together. And then she planned for change. She's got her goals. She did her research. You can see her research. She had 4 resources, and they're cited down here in a bibliography. But it really is only about 1.5 pages of summary and information, and then she just sums it all up into one big or one small conclusion. This, if you're used to scholarly writing, this does not to be that high level thesis scholarly writing, but you should have a bit of a description of what you learned, what you gained from that learning, and how it will be incorporated into your ideas for your training or for your project. Then this is her improvement plan. She has her objectives, her outcomes, her schedule. She went to her principal and started working or co-planning so that she could have access to the teachers that she wanted to impact. And then she had a plan for what data am I collecting through exit tickets. So as we were talking about this, I actually remember she called me up and we got on Zoom and we talked about her plan, because she's like, I don't know what to collect. Like she's like, do I wait until ISATs come out? No, because something like this might not have an impact on your ISATs right away. So what would have an impact? How do you know you're having an impact? So she decided to do exit ticket surveys. And then in her plan, she included, or by the end of her implementation, then she evaluated. She went through all of the exit tickets. She wrote her own reflections. And overall, like right here, she says, overall, the output of professional development this year was well received. The gains myself and my school had from these PDs are visible in our action steps for next year. So she had seen them take a shift in their willingness to learn and change. And that was really exciting because her school had really struggled with any sort of growth and learning. So then this is her needs assessment, but I'm going to come down in her artifacts. Essentially, she put in her agendas, the slides, and everything that she did. Now, as a side note, everything that you're doing here could be incorporated into your IPLPs. So you know those IPLPs you have to submit? Everything that we're doing is also designed around that structure. Don't feel like you have to do 2 separate things. If you want to design your IPLPs around what you're doing here, then you're killing what? 3 birds with 1 stone, credits, stipend, and IPLPs. Strongly recommend it if that's what you want to do. So you're not, doing tons of too much extra. So this is your project for this year. We'll see you soon.